Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters. It is the home of the Retirement Guys Formula, America's Medicare Associates and Retirement Tax Partners with Nolan Baker and Scott Kirshner. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. Once again, that's 419-794-3030, online at arhq.com. The show is available via podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you consume your media. Just search for America's Retirement Headquarters. All the previous editions of the show and segments there for you to check out on at your leisure. Lest we forget, it is the most wonderful time of the year, so people will say. March Madness tips off this week, and it is estimated that at least 80% of Americans will participate in an NCAA tournament pool at work, which means a lot of research and numbers crunching surrounding the 68 teams. Or is there? We're going to get into the meat of this in just a second, but I'm curious, guys, when you fill out brackets, if you do fill out brackets, do you make the decision with your head or with your heart?
Well, this is Nolan, and I would say I usually don't follow basketball very much. I mean, I like that, so I would typically go with like the favorite mascots or teams that I know. It's really a gut decision.
The color
for
of
me.
the uniforms.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Scott?
Well, I used to actively do this, and I used to follow it a lot and watched a lot of the games. I had my sheets. I'd usually get in 4 or 5 pools. I had my sheets with my highlighters and everything. After never ever winning or even coming close, they pay first, second, and third. I'm like, this is really kind of silly. I would do all of the favorites on one bracket, and then I would. Always had, being a Buckeye Ohio State fan, I would always pick them, and even when that was the dumbest move I made because they no chance. But I don't even get in it anymore. I don't even know the last time. How about you, Chris?
So I usually take part in at least one at work, one
Sure.
or two. This is a question of using emotions versus diversification. It's kind of a parallel here.
Yeah.
But I always try to see in every pool, whether it is one with my heart or my head, how quickly I can realistically put Duke out, because that is always my choice. Anybody but Duke. But again, there are parallels here. You make these decisions if you make them emotionally or by color or whatever, and you get it wrong. You're out $50 or whatever the buy-in is at work, even if you're allowed to do that. When it comes to retirement planning, if you're using emotion, see, I got there. Yeah. It could be devastating. It can set you back so many different years. So here's the question. Like I said, a lot of people are taking time analyzing these brackets, watching the tournaments, the first in. How much of an effort are people putting into their retirement planning versus the tournament? Can you give some advice on how much time investors actually should spend on their portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, years ago when my grandfather passed away, one of the things that we did is we went and helped kind of clean out his house. And in his kitchen, in his drawer, the top drawer, we had pulled that out. And one of the things he had done is he had wrote down the daily closing price of the markets every single day in this notebook.
Wow.
So I guess I get my gene from my grandfather with being in the market and taking a look at it. But I would tell people, let me get the gray hair from looking at the market on a daily basis. It's usually not very healthy, I would think, to look at the market on a daily basis. I don't know about you, Scott. How often do you look at your investment accounts?
That's a great question, Nolan. I used to very frequently. I mean, it was something I did on a daily basis. Being over here with you, I am now letting you have the gray hair. I've got too many other things to worry about, and I don't pay attention to it as much as I used to. I do follow, I do see things, but working with you and your team side by side and sitting in on some of the appointments and that gives me a lot of the information that I need, that I come back and relate it to myself. So it helps out a lot. I met with a client last week, and I asked them if they had a financial advisor, and they said yes. And I was signing them up for Medicare. And one of the things, I was in their Social Security account with them, and I was looking at it, and they're a high-income earner. And I said, well, has your financial advisor helped you figure out when and how to navigate taking Social Security? And, him and his wife, it was a great appointment. Him and his wife looked at me and said, no, we really haven't. I go, well, you're turning 65 in May. You probably should have done that 5 years ago. And they looked at me and their jaw kind of dropped and said, yeah, we haven't talked about that at all. I said, well, this is what we do here. We can help you look at when to take Social Security, but we can also help look at your portfolio. Getting an advisor is great to have one to get you to retirement, but you have to change gears when you move through retirement. It's totally different to and through. So, they were kind of shocked that they haven't had that conversation. So that leads to tell me that they haven't been paying attention or looking in as much as maybe they should.
Yeah, and I guess the follow-up question there is how many times has their advisor reached out to them? So, I mean, if you're worried about this environment right now and you haven't heard from your advisor, definitely worth a second opinion. But
Sure.
When we talk with clients, what I would say is that a lot of people will come into the office, those folks that maybe don't have an advisor, and it's common for me to say, hear somebody say, hey, I had my 401k, I set it up when I started years ago, and I really haven't paid much attention to it till now. They haven't done it. So here's what we're going to recommend for you. Number one, for recommended portfolio review frequency, I would recommend that you do it at a minimum on an annual basis. A comprehensive review is going to ensure that your investments kind of align with what your financial goals are, your risk tolerances, market conditions. You want to make sure that you're staying within that 90% probability of success when you're looking at what your retirement financial goals are. I'd also, I come from a family of dentists. Dad was a dentist. My brother was a dentist. I like the concept of financial checkups.
Sure.
So it's good to get those different checkups that are out there. The problem, that we have nowadays in society is I think that there's so much financial news that the average investor either becomes paralyzed or they lead to making short-term decisions. If you're an investor and you feel like there's just too much noise and it makes you paralyzed, or if you are an investor that, maybe made changes to your portfolio when COVID happened. I had a lady that had come in the other day and we looked at her portfolio, and I noticed that she was still fairly young, but almost 85% of her money was in fixed income. And I was curious as to why, with so much time on our side. And she said, what was happening with COVID, I just had to protect my money and go safe. And I said, well, you realize what the market has done over that time frame. Her portfolio has made it less than 3% over that time frame by going straight fixed. So, those short-term decisions of looking at them can be painful. Doing it semi-annually can also be a way that's more of a balanced approach, making sure that you're staying engaged. You want to look at major life events. When, Dad passed away, I think that's a good time for Mom to say, hey, with things like life insurance, with, titling of financial assets, with income changes, with portfolios, is that a time to make a change in a plan? That time of retirement, those people who set it and forget it, in general, the last 2 years, the market's been good. So that's probably been healthy in their portfolio. But, set it and forget it, moving into retirement time can be a life change to take a look at it. If you're going to go through a marriage, a divorce, you're receiving an inheritance. We'll hear people all the time. I'll ask them, I said, well, what's up with that large balance that you have sitting over here in the savings account? Oh, that's Mom's inheritance. Or, we had cashed in the investment accounts and we paid a ton in taxes and probate and fees and expenses. So, if somebody passes away and you're going to get an inheritance, before you sign paperwork to receive that inheritance, you really should talk with a professional. The next is market volatility and looking at economic conditions. I mean, we're in that environment right now where we're experiencing market volatility. But if you can get past the short-term emotions of panic, volatility can create opportunity. So having predetermined points, one in our office is we have what is called a buy on the dip list, meaning that if the market drops more than 10%, we're looking at identifying where has the market created opportunities. So if we've done the research and the homework and we've identified a basket of stocks that we love, and if we love them then, if they go on sale, the question becomes, how can I take advantage of that? No different than if the market has a run-up, taking some of your profits off the table. My son Andrew, he's a young guy and he's got a great portfolio that he's built up. But, over the last couple of years, as the market's been running, I've been having him take a little bit off at predetermined levels just to, protect his profits, put that money back in for a buying opportunity and looking at it. So what you want to look for when you're looking at your portfolios, you want to look at what your performance is versus what your expectations are. Everybody at our office, we create an investment policy statement, and that would show what the parameters are that 95% of the time would happen in your portfolio. As long as you're within those guardrails, you're in normal market conditions. You don't need to panic. You want to look at asset allocation, diversification. Are there things that have appreciated? Should you be taking a look at some discounted investments out there? That is really referring to the rebalancing frequency that you have. Those type of things will all help you in making sure that you align your goals. The average investor makes very poor short-term decisions. This is, I think, one of the areas that an advisor that has a good communication plan and has a dedicated process to review the approach can be a good financial coach to help you out and allow you to spend less time looking at your portfolio individually, but more time being educated about understanding the investment methodology and process that's put into your portfolio. So if you're in that environment right now and you feel a little bit panicked, if you're in an environment right now that you feel that, where, Nolan, are there opportunities that I can take advantage of? What should my next move be? I'd love to talk to you about your portfolio. This is what we do all day long. And that independent portfolio analysis will be a great way to help you out.
All you need to do to get started is go to the website, arhq.com, find out more about the team, the events that they have going on, set up a time there. You can also give a call, 419-794-3030. I venture to say that the 68 teams that made the tournament this year, they don't have the same plan, game in and game out. They will make changes as necessary, whether it's at the half, whether it is for the next opponent. The ones that will go farther, obviously there's a little bit of luck in there, but the ones that are going to win at the end of the day, hopefully not Duke, but the ones who will win are the ones who don't let emotions dictate. If they are behind, they continue to have that reserve and they continue to make the changes as necessary and not make mistakes through the emotion. So again, if you need that sort of mindset on your side, reach out to the team, arhq.com, or give a call, 419-794-3030.